This is Colm McGuigan for IFLTV. It's been a terrible couple of days. You know, like Coogan's been on my back. I've had the directors on my back. I'm actually up against it.
Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, and also, since our last interview, when I turned up, I had a little bit of a Stevie, and now it's got worse, and it's like, might even be COVID.
Can we just put that to bed before people start going, he's at an arena, now his fighters have COVID?
I had a COVID test this morning, but I have had a terrible Stevie, and that's why we haven't actually managed to sit down after our 45-minute interview that we did, that you botched up.
I started sending you DMs. You know how many DMs I got going, where's the 45-minute interview?
Which was actually one of the best interviews we've ever done.
You've ever done?
Well, you've ever done. So, yeah. So now we're, for reference, we're backstage. Tara Moana's just polacked someone. And we've got 20 minutes till Andy Cruz comes on. And you're like, you come up to me and go, you've got 20 minutes till the next fight. And I'm like, I don't know if we can do 20 minutes. No, Andy Cruz hasn't even wrapped his hands yet. And I'm like, what? How do you even know that? And so we're here now on the sofa in the office doing an IFL interview. Because apparently the fans...
I did send you screenshots, to be fair.
You're like, you tried to put it on me. First you start saying, oh, your work ethic's slipping, blah, blah, blah. Then you start going...
But you heard them messages.
You're letting the fans down. I'm like, mate, don't play me like that. Once you start telling me I'm letting the fans down, you know I don't do that shit.
I'll be honest with you, right? Eddie of old would have just went, you know what, let's get straight into it, and done it straight away.
Yeah, but Eddie of old was like, in his 30s, like, really didn't have a lot to do, and he was just really over the moon.
Why do you act like you have a lot to do? Frank Smith does everything.
Listen, it's like you're talking about genius at work, you know?
Okay, be honest with me, right? What have you done this week for this show?
What have I done this week for this show?
When shit hit the fan, what did you do this week?
Okay, firstly, I've done media all day. So I arrived Wednesday night, did media Wednesday night. Thursday, did media all day. I started at 8 o'clock in the morning. I went to the DAZN office at 10 or whenever I saw you. I done 3 hours of media there, all the Australian media, all the other interviews from America, which you ballsed up. Then I went to the press conference, right? Did the press conference, did all the media after that. Then I had meetings in the evening, right? Then Friday did that. I mean, I haven't got to justify myself to you, Colm McGuigan. What the fuck have you been doing? I know what you've been doing, and I ain't repeating it on IFL.
We'll change the subject from there. Right. Edward, we'll start this interview like we started the last, and if this botches up, I swear to God, that's it. I know. You revealed in that interview to me some sad news. I don't think you've told anyone else about it. I say sad. I mean, sad in one hand, but in the other hand, he's out playing cricket however long after. So tell me a little bit about your dad and exactly what happened.
No, people know. Like, it's not a secret or anything. He had a heart attack 3 weeks ago. He was watching Leyton Orient. And in typical Bazza style, he said he's had a couple of heart attacks before, so you know, like, what it is. And he's like, oh no. So he says to me, we're only 5 minutes in, and I thought I'll just get through the game, and I'll go to the hospital after. It's like mental. Then it got worse and worse, and then he said to my mum, don't tell anyone. I don't feel well at all. I'm going downstairs to the doctor. Went down to the doctor. Went to the hospital. Had a heart attack. And then went to another hospital the next day. He was at Whipps Cross for 24 hours. And he had a blockage in his artery. But he's had 2 blockages in 2 other arteries that need an angioplast. Quite amazingly, we were talking about the other day, they go into your arm, I think this one was, into your heart, find the blockage, blow up the blockage like with a little balloon, and seal the artery. So anyway, they did that. I think he was out on a Tuesday or Wednesday. He came to the Johnny Fisher fight on a Saturday. He's just completely off his head. And he played cricket 2 days ago. He scored 60 runs in his first game in 2 years. And he's just, you know, so yeah, it was...
Does it worry you when you hear things like that? Because I think people from the outside probably look at your life and see you're here, there and everywhere. But when things like this happen to close family members, what happens then?
Yeah, I mean, my dad had his first heart attack in his late 40s. My granddad died at 45 through heart attack. His dad, my great-granddad, died at 44. So it's not looking good, bruv. I actually had some tests the other day. My cholesterol's a bit high. Got to get on top of that. But it's one of the reasons I try and keep as fit as I can. It's a high-stress job, and there's a lot of travelling. But it's what we do. It's like, he doesn't know anything else, and nor do I. So that's why when I said to him, he'd go, I'll see you at the Johnny Fisher fight Saturday. I was like, mate, Bazza, do just chill out, mate. He goes, fuck that. I said, you need to rest. I ain't resting. What's the point of resting? Like, I'm not living my life like that. And I think if you live your life like that with passion, I know that when he does pop his clogs, which you never know, could be tomorrow. Hopefully not, it's Father's Day. No, but it's the life, Colm. But the comfort comes from living a life where you know when he goes, he will go, what a life I've had. And I know that if he went tomorrow or, please God, in 10 years, he couldn't have got any more out of his life. Do you know what I mean? And
do you learn from your dad though in that respect? Because like you live this lifestyle of just crazy 100 mile an hour. Do you learn from these moments and say, right, I need to start taking it a bit more easier?
I think you just got to try and do the best you can with, like, I'm not going to stop. I'm mad. I'm addicted. I love it. I just, this is what I do. So all you can do is prepare yourself in the best possible way to physically be as good as you can be. And that's what I do. And you got. I suppose you got to be a little bit smart, because it does make you think. And that's why I checked the other day, and they're sort of saying, "You're okay, but this," and you got to get on top of those things. So, but it's also life. Like, you can't swim in the deep end and not get wet. You can't live a high pressure lifestyle and a job where you're all out and just expect to be 100% healthy all the time. It's not good for you. Let's have it right. Getting on a plane every week and going to event after event, working your balls off all day, and then being on the phone all night and up in the night on the phone dealing with America, Japan, Saudi, whatever. It's not good for you. But it is at least a life of purpose.
We also spoke when we first done this interview about the fact that you've kind of found God in your life, I'll say. Colm McGuigan, IFLTV. We're re-picking up this interview because Edward Eno's the busiest man this side of the Hudson River. Edward.
On the other side of the Hudson River.
Yeah, I'd say so. There's a few others the other side. We were just on the point of your dad, and we were talking about your dad and everything that went on with the heart attack. And then it brought me to the point that you're a bit of an inspirational figure on the Bible front now.
What, just that Romans, the Romans 8:18. It's had about 55 million views.
Like, where did this come from though? Because old Daddy never had that. You didn't have that in your locker, like.
Really, that's not. People say to me, "Oh, have you found God?" It's like, I've always been a believer, but do you know what it is? I think that if you can find peace in the fact that God has a plan for you, I think that's unbelievably calming and reassuring. Do you know what I'm saying? And a lot of that came from Katie Taylor, if I'm honest, and spending time around her, because through her victories and through her defeats, they hurt, but you also know it's part of a plan. And I think if you can put that into play, I think it can be a very calming influence on your life. So, yeah, it's not like I'm not going to church every day or every Sunday.
Been to mass with me and Brian Peters, though.
I do go, but not like, I mean, I feel like if you're going to really be, I just find it difficult to give my time to God in that way. But at the same time, I respect people who do, and I think it's a very calming influence. And yeah, I've always been a man of faith, but maybe a little bit more as you get a little bit older. I think my dad's a little bit of a secret man of God, and I'm around a lot of people that have found God, especially people that have been born again. Tony Sims, Nigel Benn, Connor's a very religious kid as well. So yeah, no, I mean, that was just a psalm that I think is a great saying. But yeah.
We'll get on to the boxing talk because we've done 10 minutes now of this, just like the other day. Yeah. First question. Thinking about last weekend and everything that Queensbury done with Fabio Wardley in the event, do you feel kind of a bit disappointed with the fact that Fabio's went there and you weren't able to deliver him that Ipswich show, or what's your thoughts on that?
Honestly, it's not really a mindset. Like, the mindset is, I was very pleased for him. I mean, I think Queensbury done a great job. Obviously, it's on the zone as well, which is great. I think as you get a little bit older, and I suppose it might be a barometer of maybe things you've achieved, you don't really get like, oh, damn, like, I'm happy for, like, even the moment that Justice Honey went down, I was like, but I was also thinking, wow, what a moment for Fabio. And I don't even represent him. I mean, he's not a friend. I like him, and we've had some good times together, and I really respect him. Like, we get on well, but it was sometimes you got to put yourself in the moment of that individual and just be like, how good must you feel right now? But I'm jealous of how good you feel. Imagine being out of a fight, dominated, and then one punch, and like in front of your people at your football ground. Like, fair play, Fabio. Like, I'm delighted for you. So I think more like that. Obviously gutted for justice. But in terms of the shows, no. I mean, we just did, obviously, Connor and Eubank in front of 65,000. We've got Crocker Donovan hopefully coming up, a big stadium show as well.
Let me be brutally honest with you, right? Frank's clearly, he's the home of the heavyweights at the minute. And you're smiling when I say that, but being honest, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm not trying to wind you up here. You probably, within the last 12 months, I'd say Eddie Hearn was on top. Now Frank Warren's probably on top, being brutally honest, in terms of
UK.
in the UK,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Does that not bother you because you always say, I want to be the best?
Yeah, of course. And I don't necessarily agree with you, but certainly for the heavyweights, I mean, they have a tremendous stable. I think our younger generation of fighters is far superior, not just to Queensbury, but to the whole of world boxing. We do have a slightly different strategy, which is a global strategy. And when you look at our fighters globally, there's no promotional company in the world that competes. But definitely in the UK, us and Queensbury, it's a healthy rivalry, one that he's winning at the moment on points. But, you know, I'm really confident of the fighters that we've got and very passionate about the stable that we have. And UK is very important to us. I know I always talk about global, but of course, we want to be number one in the UK. And at the moment, even though we're on the same platform, the plan is to outdo them.
Let's talk about TKO for a minute. Turkey's put out this tweet about Nishant Dev. Does that sit a bit wrong with you because he's a DAZN fighter? How does DAZN then look at that to say, okay, we might let him fight on a Netflix show? I know you do it with Katie Taylor, but it's a bit different.
Yeah, he's exclusive, Nishant, to DAZN. I pitched to His Excellency. You know, he asked, His Excellency voice noted me and said, who have you got? Give me a great young fighter. And I said, Nishant Dev, Terry Moana, Pat Brown. I reeled off a load of them. And he came back and he went, I like Nishant Dev, let's put him on. Anything like that would have to have clearance from DAZN, just like Katie Taylor. But also, DAZN are very forward-thinking and they also respect the opportunity for the fighter.
Has that conversation happened?
About Nishant? Not yet, no. But, you know...
You're open to him fighting on that card, though?
Nishant's not a TV fighter yet either. You know, you'd have to look at the bigger picture and say we're building this younger generation of talent, you know. So we have to make sure that we look at opportunities to grow the brand of a fighter. And if you're on that card, specifically as a young prospect, it would be a huge opportunity for you.
How do you fight against TKO and the fact that maybe Shakur's coming to the end of his agreement with you and there's a fact that he may say, you know what, I'm going to go to TKO? How do you combat that?
You don't. You know, I think if you are a fighter and you have good representation, you understand that we are the best global promotional company in the world. We have 40 shows a year, massive opportunities. Me, myself, and the team, Kevin, Tom, everybody are fantastic at manoeuvring and strategizing for a fighter. And these people, quite frankly, aren't. I mean, they don't really know what they're doing in boxing yet, but it's exciting and the league's going to be fun and all that kind of stuff. But you need security and you need commitment and you need strategizing around the right path on the right platform with the right schedule. And we do that better than anyone.
What did you make of Oscar's video that came out of the clapback where he kind of says that us and Eddie Hearn and PBC, we've got a plan and you're not going to overtake us?
I think we're all very competitive and Oscar clearly doesn't like Dana White and he will have the bit between his teeth to make sure that he doesn't, you know, it's the game, you know. And I think Dana's come from a background that with the UFC where they really get to do whatever they want. It doesn't really work like that in boxing. I mean, I wish it did at times, but it's just not the way it rolls. So I think Oscar's on the front foot and we're speaking a lot to Golden Boy and PBC and there's a good unity right now in boxing to make big fights. So yeah, it's not going to be easy for Dana, but I don't think he necessarily wants to come into that space. You know, I think he wants his own sort of product in the league that he can run and control. And I get that.
Okay, so truthfully, what happened with Boots and Teofimo has Boots ducked Teofimo like people are suggesting? What's the situation?
You'll see in due course, but basically it was a decision more on the weight. And, you know, Boots feels that he just cannot perform 100% to his capabilities at 147 pounds. We haven't made a final decision, but you will see in the next week or so, Boots will make his own announcement with us to say that, you know, what's next. And
So he's going to move up to 154.
I think there's a very good chance of that. Yeah.
Who's the likely opponents at 154?
I don't know. I mean, we like the Virgil Ortiz fight. You know, when we were talking to Saudi about August 16th, they asked us if we'd fight Virgil Ortiz, and we said yes. He wasn't willing to take the fight or available in August, but he said we'd do it later in the year, and we're up for that. So Boots will probably fight in August or early September. I don't know. Bohachik, Thurman, Mendoza, anyone top 10 in the world.
In Philadelphia?
Yeah, more than likely. And then I think you'll see him fight Virgil Ortiz in the back end of the year.
Eddie, Dave Allen, bit of a cult hero now. You shared the other day kind of a clip. What's this resurgence of Dave?
I just think Dave Allen is like the people's champ. You know, I mean, you couldn't get a more genuine, down-to-earth fighter that people can really relate to, and also so honest. And I just think that, obviously, look, he's already had a good profile because he's been around a long time. But obviously now he's taking things a little bit more seriously with Jamie Moore. He's always been a talented fighter. But every now and again, you just feel a bit of momentum with someone that the people want to get behind and buy into the journey. And I think they've done that with Dave Allen. And even like as big as Johnny Fisher's support is, you could hear in the arena that night, there was big support for Dave Allen. And I think when we go back to Sheffield, I think he could fill the whole place up.
How about the next 12 months for Dave Allen for me?
I think, you know, look, we'll see what happens with TKV because Adelaide's now given up the British title, or I don't know what's happening with that, but maybe we fight for the British title. Maybe we fight someone top 15, top 20 in the world. And then I want to see him land a big fight. You know, and that, I know we talk about the Wilder fight, but it's like one of those mad things that when you start thinking about it, like if I'm Deontay Wilder, are you that concerned about Dave Allen? Probably not. Now you want to know what's the money. But I think that Deontay Wilder against Dave Allen fills Manchester Arena or the O2. And I think the money can be generated for that fight. But we'll fight first in September and we'll go from there. He's just got to stay focused. And, you know, it'll be just tremendous to see him rack up the wins and rack up the money and just watch his life change. And I think that's what's the most rewarding thing about my job.
We'll roll through a few quick ones and then we'll get on to tonight. Tito Mercado pulled out of this card. What's the situation with him and likely to fight again soon?
He had a shoulder injury going into this fight. Look, he's up for the big fights. I mean, he just needs probably one more and then he's willing to jump in those big fights. Very good talent, very talented, punches very hard, and he'll be back when his shoulder's healed up, probably back end of the summer.
In your interview with Coogan, you referred to big changes to the business. I interviewed Frank about it. He said to speak to you. You're the guy with all the answers. So what is the answers? What's the changes to the business?
Just I think just the look and the feel of the shows. I don't want to go into too much but
can you give us a bit of an idea of what's going to change to the shows?
No, not yet, because there'll be an announcement at the beginning of July. But what's the point in us doing an announcement and a big, you know?
Well, it gives a teaser. Give the fans a little.
No.
Jeez, you're getting better. Next one for me. Are you giving up on your Puerto Rican stable? Because you've just let Yankel Rivera go to MVP. What's the situation there?
What it is, COLM, is that we can't represent everyone, and sometimes when a fighter's contract comes to an end, you have to decide if you want to be in that game. And Yankel's a great fighter. I know he's a flyweight. It's difficult, you know, but it's like, can we do the best for him? And we just got to a stage where we just couldn't map out his career in the best way. So, you know, he's got opportunities to fight. I think he's signed with MVP now, hasn't he? It was great, brilliant for him. So it's like everybody when their contract comes to an end, you have to make a decision. Do you want to continue that investment or not?
You've teased more new signings. Who are you in talks with at the moment? Anyone?
Fighters. I mean, there's a real, you know, changing of the tide or the guard now with fighters where a lot of promoters have lost their TV contract. So fighters are now panicking and saying, well, I need security. I need to be with a promotional company that have a contract and have a schedule, and I know I'm going to be in work and I'm going to be in active work. So, yeah, always. I mean, it's not just in the last couple of weeks. We're talking to people all the time.
In terms of Kieran Conway, George Lillard, is that done?
Yes, it's done.
What show will that?
I don't know yet. Be around September time, but George Lillard against Kieran Conway, British title, agreed by both sides.
Callum Smith, David Benavidez?
In discussions with the PBC. I love the fight. I mean, it's a very tough fight, but the two champions in that weight class are Bivol or Benavidez.
Is that a Vegas kind of show?
Yeah, it'd be in America. But, you know, Callum's got options as well, but it's a very tempting one, and we're negotiating with PBC at the moment.
McGrail Masood be rearranged?
Yes, that's the plan. Obviously, McGrail will fight Baluta. Really good fight next week. And then when Shabazz is injury-free, we look to make that fight again.
Sam Jones says Conor Walker against Sam Eglinton. You like that fight?
Yeah, I think Sam's got to get through Liam Taylor next week. It's going to be a war. It's a very tough fight. But Conor Walker, we love him. I mean, so entertaining. And him against Eglinton would be a bloodbath.
Carl Froch's comments. I know I've heard you say a few things. What's your take on this whole situation with him and AJ?
Obviously, I'm not going to like it, am I? Because, I mean, I'm probably the guy that would literally stand in front of AJ and dive in front of a bullet for him, because that's how I feel about him. And it's got nothing to do with the money that he's made us. It's the individual that he is. Like, you couldn't meet a more stand-up guy. I know people say, get out of his arse, Eddie. I'm just telling you the truth about the guy. Like, this sport is full of absolute dogs and rats and people with absolutely zero loyalty, right? And it's not, sometimes they get infected, right? Because these boxers are actually real, good, honest, loyal people. But it's the people around them that will fuck with their heads, feed them with lies, and make them realise, for their benefit, that there's, you can make this better. Don't get me wrong, boxing's a short career. You've got to look after yourself, but you've also got to appreciate what people have done for you, how loyal they've been to you, and the opportunities they've created for you. I've never had one argument with Anthony Joshua, ever. Right? He has completely, since his professional debut, put his trust. He's always asked questions. He's always, bargained his end. It's not like, but he has had opportunities to leave before. He's had opportunities probably to make bad decisions and to go for more money. And he's stayed and believed in us the whole time. And I will always have his back for that. And I hate when people criticise him, particularly people that are on the same team, like I said in those interviews, Like me, Froch, Rob, AJ. Like, you'd never see Rob McCracken say anything negative about AJ.
So why do you think Froch is?
Because he's got his own platform, right? And every time anyone says anything about AJ, the numbers go through the roof, right? So, and he knows that. But there's always, I don't know, I don't want to go into it too much because I don't want to criticise Carl, because Carl's another person that I would...
But clearly you've got a bit of an issue with him because of this.
I don't have an issue with Carl. I don't like what he's doing. But he's another guy that I would always tell you is a great fighter. Like, we had a great run together. And you'll never see me publicly slag off Carl Froch. You'll never see me ever slag off AJ, Darren Barker, Bellew, all these people who have been good to me, and we've shared a great, relationship with. We've been honest with each other, and that's just how I am. And I feel like AJ and Carl, although they're not mates, like, we're in the same kind of system. They trained together. AJ looked up to Carl. AJ's never said a bad word about Carl Froch.
Is AJ not the type of person who would just pick up the phone and speak to him about this?
I think they've had. I believe they've had a chat or a couple of texts. I don't know, whatever. But also, I said in my interviews, Carl Froch got written off many times, and he came back. And Carl remembers that when people wrote him off, what he did, he came back against Lucien Butte. No one believed he could beat Lucien Butte. He beat him, and he went on an incredible run. So why not give AJ the benefit of the doubt? And rather than say you're finished, you'll get knocked spark out, rendered unconscious, like all this kind of stuff. It's the way you say it with spite. I don't like, you know what I mean? Rather than, you know what? Like, you could say it another way. For me, I think AJ might be there, but I'll tell you what, let's get behind him. One more last push, right? Guy that's changed boxing in this country. What a good bloke. Go on, AJ. But in my opinion, I think it's the end of the road. That's cool. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, he got rendered unconscious. Like, it's just like, I don't know. It's like, but, when Carl was around, ex-fighters didn't have their own YouTube channels and stuff like that. Like, and if they did, Carl would have drove around their house. Like, you imagine if, I don't know, Joe Calzaghe or Eubank started their own podcast or YouTube channel, and after the Ward fight said Carl was useless and he should just retire. He's overrated. Carl would literally drive around their house, go and have a straightener with him. So anyway.
Well, Ed, you're being whisked away again. Appreciate your time. Clonwigan IFLTV.